going to start chapter, I don't know what chapter this is, 40, 48, 49. I think it's 49. And Cleo is here. Has anybody heard from Perth lately? All right. Okay. So this chapter is on digestion and excretion. So far, we've done 1, 2, 3. What's after that? We did the cardiovascular system. We did the respiratory system, immune system. Is that it? No, sorry. Skeletal, muscular, and tegumentary. That's right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've done 6 systems already. This is going to be numbers 7 and 8. But today's topic is just on nutrients. Carrots, fish, eggs, hamburgers, blackberries, and cow's milk. The human body is able to convert each of these foods into nutrients that the body needs. But the body cells need to function, grow, and replicate. There's going to be 6 classes of nutrients. A lot of this lesson for today is going to be a review of the, what do you call it? The biological molecules that I taught you last year. So a lot of this should be at least familiar, if not already known. So non-photosynthetic organisms have to get energy from the nutrients in food. A nutrient is defined as a substance required by the body for energy, growth, repair, and maintenance. Nutrients can be classified in one of 6 groups. We've got carbohydrates, proteins, this should start to sound familiar, lipids, and then we've got vitamins, minerals, and water. There are very few foods that contain all 6 nutrients, but most foods contain a concentration of 1 or 2 of these nutrients. Now, the U.S. Federal Drug Administration has broken food down into 6 food groups. So we've got meat, milk, fruits, veggies, breads and cereals, and finally, fats, oils, and sweets. I don't know if you are familiar with the food pyramid. I would imagine it should be something that you learn in health class. But basically what this represents is kind of the proportional amount of each group of food that you should be consuming every day. So the grains are the most that you should be consuming, although I have a feeling that because of like, you guys are too young to remember Atkins, but I'm sure you've heard of keto and the keto diet. It's basically a way to train your body to burn proteins and fats, mostly obviously because it's like a weight loss thing. It's kind of trying to retrain your body to burn fat first, because there's a hierarchy of how your body burns nutrients for energy. The first thing that it's going to burn is carbohydrates, and that falls under the grain category. If you remember back in grade 10, when I talked about carbohydrates being the quick form of energy, so it's stored in your muscles and in your liver, any extra that you don't use. But the first thing that your body wants to burn for energy is carbohydrates. After that, it will burn protein. And the very last thing that it actually burns is fat, because the purpose of fat is energy storage. It's supposed to be there in times of need. So for example, imagining ourselves as wild animals and not knowing when our next meal was going to come from and having to physically go out and either hunt or gather your food. That would be why our biology is set up the way that it's set up, because we didn't, like, if you think of any other animal, their next meal, they don't really know where it's coming from. So that's why fat is there to use when you don't have food available. Of course, we have fat available all the time, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, so that's not the purpose, but the philosophy behind what I think in the 1990s, it started off as the Atkins diet, which was proposed by obviously Dr. Atkins. I think he wrote a book about it. So basically saying if you cut out almost all of your carbohydrates, then you can kind of force your body to burn protein and fat instead of carbohydrates. And I have tried keto and it does work, but I would say when it comes to nutrition, especially when you talk about your overall diet. So when I use the word diet, I don't mean like not eating very many calories for a short amount of time to drop weight. I'm talking about your everyday food habits, that you don't want your diet to be anything that's unsustainable. So for example, one of my good friends here, she's now like struggling through the keto diet. And then I'll see her post on Facebook like every weekend that she's cooking up like macaroni, like homemade macaroni and cheese and like barbecue ribs. And she'll make like, and she makes like, she doesn't just make it for her and her husband. It's like a family size, like 7-person meal that she makes. She kind of goes overboard that way, but that's not sustainable. So there's no point in cutting out carbohydrates 5 days a week. And then your body starts getting used to like, okay, there's no carbs available, so I have to burn protein and fat. And then on the weekends, it's like, woohoo, like carb central. It doesn't work, right? So just try to have a healthy diet that is sustainable. That's the best and pretty much the only advice that you really need when it comes to overall health. All right. Anyway, so what I was trying to what I was trying to say before I went off on a tangent, as usual, is the pyramid represents the relative amounts of food. So according to this, grains should be the majority of the daily food intake. Then the next level up is fruits and vegetables. Of course, you should have more vegetables than fruits because fruits contain a lot of sugar in fructose. So you don't want to eat too much fruit. And then your milk, yogurt, or cheese, and your meat, beans, eggs, or nuts, those are about the same, 2 to 3 servings per day. And then basically fats, oils, and sweets, as little as possible is what that boils down to. It doesn't mean that you can't have it at all, ever. But obviously you don't want to be eating like 4 candy bars every day. So each nutrient is going to play a different role in keeping an organism healthy. So this is the food guide pyramid from the US Department of Agriculture. That's the USDA. I personally don't put a lot of stock in graphics like this, mostly because there's so much controversy, and maybe not controversy is the wrong word. There's so much discussion around people's health. And I'm sure it's not just limited to females, but males as well become very body conscious, especially with social media and, like photo editing and filters and that kind of thing. And I just read, as another tangent, I just read another article yesterday about, was it Finland or Norway? I think one of those two was making it illegal to post on social media, like for influencers to post on social media without disclosing or telling people that it's been edited. So if you see like, what's her name? Chloe, Kim, or Kylie, whatever the Kardashians are, if they're posting these pictures, and they would have to put on there like, this has been edited, this has been used like a filter, or whatever, because people can manipulate the size of their waist, the size of their breasts, the size of their hips. All of that can be edited with Photoshop, as I'm sure you guys are well aware. So anyway, the point being that all of us are individuals, even though we're all human beings, and in general, our metabolism works the same way. We all break down nutrients the same way. However, I would say that each of us also has a very unique biochemistry. We all have a very unique, what do you call it? Like a combination of hormones. Like that's why we're all individuals, because our hormones all work slightly differently. And it doesn't mean that you know, you see your friend trying one thing, like your friend eats salad only and she never loses any weight, but then like your other friend like eats hamburgers whenever they want and they never gain any weight. That's because of metabolism and biochemistry. So that's why I'll say like, okay, this is what I guess like the US Department of Agriculture recommends. And I'm sure a lot of nutritionists can kind of generally agree that you shouldn't eat tons of sugar and fat. But I think when it comes to like the amounts of grains and especially what kinds of grains, because I might actually say it would be better for you to eat rice than it is for you to eat like these muffins that are down here, or even bread. And if you're going to eat bread, eat brown bread or multigrain bread. Don't eat white bread. So there's more nuance, and I don't know if you know what the word nuance means, but that's really important, and we forget a lot of that. Nuance is like if somebody talks about how things are black and white, nuance would be the gray area, right? So things are not always simple, things are not always right and wrong, but there's nuance. You have to understand context, and things are just generally more complicated. And unfortunately, because of social media and just in general, the way that people are nowadays, you can't really have a discussion that has nuance, especially on social media, because people just don't have time or patience to read it, I guess. Anyway, some nutrients give energy for cellular processes. So energy in food, we measure that either in kilocalories or in calories. A capital C is not the same thing as lowercase calories. So the little c calorie is the amount of heat energy required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water 1 degree Celsius. You might have learned that in physics. And it's not the same thing as when we talk about calories in food. That's with a capital C. The more calories that are in food, obviously, the more energy it gives you. The other thing that I want to mention as well is calories are not the end all be all to everything. And this is a good example of nuance, okay? So I hear a lot of people say, okay, well, I need to lose weight and I'm a scientific or mathematically minded person. And so if I just burn more calories than I eat, then I should lose weight. And I guess technically you can think of that as being true. However, there's more nuance. Yeah, there's that word again. That's your word of the day, nuance. There's more nuance to that because let's say I have 1 banana versus 1 banana muffin. And let's say my banana muffin is low carb, low cal, keto, whatever you want to call it. But here's the difference. If my 1 banana is 100 calories and my banana muffin is 100 calories, which one do you think is better for your overall health? Because they're both the same amount of calories. And this is what I mean when I talk about when people look at food. I believe that a lot of people in the world have an unhealthy relationship with food. I know I am definitely one of them, so I will cop to that. And so it's very important to actually understand how your body actually processes food. So if you're not sure and you say, okay, well, 1 banana is 100 kilocalories and a banana muffin is 100 kilocalories. Wow. 100 calories. I'm just going to use the word calories. There's obviously one choice in here that is better than the other, and it is the banana because it is natural, number one. Number two, it's going to contain more fiber. And the banana muffin is going to have probably processed flour, which has been refined through either physical or chemical processes. And it's going to have been bleached probably because most of the flour that we buy is bleached flour. That's why it's all white. And of course, you're going to probably have some sugar in there rather than, so the sugar here is sucrose rather than the fructose in the banana. So already you're dealing with a disaccharide. What if I spelled that wrong? Rather than a monosaccharide. And the biggest thing here is fiber. So if you need or if you're not sure or you're confused about diet and health, and again, diet not meaning like I'm going to go on keto or whatever, but your overall food practices, I would say the more natural, the better. That's my number one rule. The more natural, the better. So rather than bringing out the muffins, I'll take out the actual fruit, something like that. Anyway, there's going to be a lot of tangents today because I am very passionate about this subject. I'm very passionate about eating healthy and doing healthy things. And even though I'm not like the smallest person in the world, I used to be a lot skinnier, but I just think it's really important for us all to understand how to eat well, because the habits that you make, even at your age, sometimes are really hard to break as you get older. When I lived in the States, I ate like crap. My diet was horrible. I ate tons of candy because I love candy, especially like hard candy. There's a lot of candy that I can't get here in Thailand. I get very upset, but I just found sour Skittles at 7-Eleven the other day, so I was super excited. But again, I'm like, I have to limit myself because otherwise I'll just like sit there and I'll eat like 5 little packs of them. I also used to drink tons of like Coke and Sprite and things like that. Like I lived with a roommate and I used to buy soda by the case, like 24 cans, even though it was just me and my roommate. And I'd have like 2 or 3 cases because, well, maybe sometime I want 7-Up and maybe sometime I want root beer, whatever. And honestly, it wasn't just moving here to Thailand where the candy that I used to eat was unavailable, but also being married to my husband. He doesn't like sweets at all, really. And so that really helped influence. So now I almost never drink Coke or Pepsi or any of that. And like I said, I rarely eat candy. Cakes, however, that's something different, especially when I can like use Food Panda and I can buy like little tiny like cheesecakes and brownies and things. Okay. Anyway, so I have a lot of information on this topic. I read a lot of books based on this topic. I read a book a couple of years ago called Salt, Sugar, Fat, mostly about the food industry and how they manipulate people's taste. Like they actually employ chemists and behavioral psychologists to figure out how they can increase the flavor of things and get people addicted. Yeah, they literally employ scientists to tell them how to get people addicted to their product, because guess what? If you can get people addicted to your product, you make more money. And that's all they care about, is making more money. So that's a very interesting book. I might actually bring that out, and I've highlighted a bunch of different things in there. Maybe I'll talk about that on Friday. Anyway, so your body obviously needs all of these nutrients in order to function properly. And yes, that includes lipids, that includes fat. Your body does need all of these things. So this is where I said before, like it'll be a bit of a review. So hopefully I'll be able to make up some of the time that I've wasted talking about diets and eating habits and things, because we've kind of learned all of this already. So we know that carbohydrates are made of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen in a ratio of 1 to 2 to 1, only for the simple sugars. That's glucose, fructose, and galactose. God, now all I want is cheesecake. Oh, crap. Carbohydrates are broken down during aerobic respiration, again, like we learned last year, to give you most of your body's energy. So again, carbohydrates are the first nutrient that your body breaks down for energy. Proteins and fats can also give you energy, but the easiest form of energy is from carbohydrates. It takes more work to get the energy out of protein and fat. The other thing I want to mention, if anybody is on or wants to try or has tried keto, the whole point of keto is to induce a process called ketosis, and that's when your body breaks down compounds other than carbohydrates for energy. But proteins are number 2. So if you want to if you want to build muscle and be on keto, you have to lift weights. That's the only way that you can do it. You can't use cardio, like just jogging or running or jumping jacks or whatever it is. You actually have to physically do weightlifting to maintain the muscle tone if you're doing keto, because your body's going to go straight to protein if it's not getting any carbs. only after the proteins are used that it goes to fat. Like I said, the purpose of fat is to store energy. So obviously your body doesn't naturally go to fat straight away. Just because you have a lot of fat and I've got enough, it doesn't automatically go straight to fat to be like, oh, well, that's all like reserved, so I'll just use that up. No, it's like there's a process to it. Carbohydrates contain sugars that are converted quickly into ATP. If you remember back to last year when we talked about glycolysis, that's the beginning of aerobic respiration, right? We break down glucose into acetyl-CoA, and that goes into the Krebs cycle. Proteins and fats have to go through many chemical reactions before the body can use them for ATP. Because again, aerobic respiration starts with glycolysis, which is the breakdown and oxidation of glucose. Proteins and fats aren't made of glucose, so they're going to have to be converted first. Okay, monosaccharides, these simple sugars, fructose and glucose, which are also called dextrose. These are the sugars that you find in fruit and honey. So again, the monosaccharides, glucose, fructose, galactose, this you find in milk. And they're all isomers, just to bring that word up again, which means they all have the formula C6H12O6, but obviously they have different structural formulas. So molasses, that has glucose. Fructose is from fruit, and again, yogurt comes from milk, so that has galactose. Okay, they're called simple sugars. Right, so the nice thing about simple sugars is that they can be absorbed straight into the bloodstream and made available to cells for aerobic respiration, because that's where aerobic respiration starts, is with glucose. Going back to my banana versus banana muffin example, the flour that makes up your banana muffin is processed more quickly by your digestive system. Therefore, it releases the sugar quicker into your blood. So you get, that's the kind of the idea behind the sugar high. If you eat really sweet things, like say you go out and you eat some ice cream, you get like a sugar high, because your body can break down that sugar into glucose and release it straight into the bloodstream very quickly. The banana, however, because there's a lot of fiber and it takes your body longer to break down the fiber, therefore the release of sugar is slower with the banana. And then you avoid what are called blood sugar spikes. And this is one of the, what do you call that, contributing factors to diabetes later in life, is if you eat very simple sugar or very refined carbohydrates, anything that's sweetened, that contains this, they've developed something called high fructose corn syrup. And that's about as horrible of a sweetener as you could possibly use, because it's fructose, which means it's a simple sugar, which means it can go immediately into your bloodstream and your cells can absorb it. High fructose corn syrup is basically like a concentrated version of the natural fructose that occurs in fruit. And so what companies do is that they use this product to sweeten their cakes, their candies, their frappes, whatever it is, because you don't need a lot of it, because the sweetness level, the way that it tastes, is much sweeter than sucrose or table sugar. So if you can use less sweetener and have it still be the same sweetness, it saves your company money. Again, for companies, it's all down to money, not about keeping people healthy. Sucrose is table sugar. Maltose is another disaccharide, and lactose, which is milk sugar. These are all disaccharides. So you can see based on the diagram, table sugar is made by combining glucose and fructose. The lactose in milk is galactose and glucose, and maltose is two glucoses. I don't know if that's the plural of glucose. And these are linked together through a condensation reaction. So before they can be used, they have to be split through hydrolysis. I don't know if you remember hydrolysis, but basically the way that we combine these two monosaccharides together is by removing a water molecule. So to break them apart, we just need to add the water molecule back. So here we go. And this is all, again, review from last year. So you notice from the bottom, we have a hydrogen from glucose and a hydroxyl from fructose. When we take those away and you still have, let me take those away. You still have this single oxygen there. That's where you form this bond. That's called condensation reaction. And then when you want to break them up again, you just have to add the water back in. So you add the H there, the OH there, that's called hydrolysis. And again, lysis is to break and hydro is water. So you're breaking with water. And finally, we get to polysaccharides. These are obviously complex molecules. Starch is a good example of polysaccharides, of a polysaccharide. This is a long chain of glucose. During digestion, the enzymes hydrolyze the long chains into individual glucose molecules. And then we have cellulose. Now, cellulose makes up about 50% of wood, and it is the way that most of the carbohydrates are stored in a plant. Again, cellulose forms the cell wall of plants, but mammals don't have an enzyme to break down cellulose, but it's still really important because it makes up that magic molecule called fiber. Fiber is really important in digestion because it helps to keep the food moving along by stimulating the smooth muscles. So remember back, what feels like an eon ago, when we learned about the muscular system, we've got skeletal muscle, which is under voluntary control. So if I decide to wave at somebody, that's my brain telling my arm muscles to wave my hand. And then you have smooth muscles, which are under involuntary control. Your entire digestive system is made of smooth muscle. So you don't have to actually consciously think like, okay, stomach, move so I can digest my lunch. So having fiber make up a lot of your diet helps to stimulate those smooth muscles to keep the food moving through your body. So this is a breakdown of the molecular structure of cellulose. And then this is one strand of cellulose, which they have broken down to the individual glucose molecule. And this is a scanning electron micrograph of what cellulose looks like. Again, we don't have any enzymes that chemically break down cellulose. The only thing that we can do is mechanically break down the tissue of the plant, and we just poop out cellulose because we can't digest it. Next is protein. Excuse me. Proteins are the structural and functional material of body cells. This is what we call the building blocks. They're used to build muscles, hair, skin, bone, all of that. Proteins are made of long chains of amino acids. They have to be broken down into amino acids in order for your cells to be able to use them. Again, this is all kind of review from grade 10. And again, humans only have 20 amino acids to build the tens of thousands of proteins and enzymes that we have in our body. Now, our body can make a lot of the 20 amino acids, but it cannot make all of them, and it can't make them all in the amount that we need. The amino acids that we get from food are called essential amino acids. So these are probably either amino acids that we can't make at all, or amino acids that we can't make in a large enough amount to do what we need them to do. There are 10 amino acids that are essential to children and teenagers for growth. For adults, there's only 8. And I don't know which 2 we don't need anymore, or I don't need anymore. I'd have to actually look that up. Okay, most of the food that we get from plants have only small amounts of amino acids. eating certain combinations of foods can make sure that we get enough. Animal products like eggs, milk, fish, poultry, and beef have larger amounts of amino acids. So this is, the picture is just a diagram of how you can mix and match. Let me see what the caption is. The combination of legumes, seeds, and grains furnishes all the essential amino acids. So it looks to me like you could basically make a taco and have all of the amino acids that you need. I'm exaggerating, but so for the grains, we have corn, wheat, barley, and rice. So we can make corn tortillas and beans, pea soup and toast, or refried beans and rice. Yummy. And that comes from legumes as well. Legumes are a very special group of plants that contain nitrogen fixing bacteria, which I talk about later. And finally, we have lipids. These are fats and oils. These are organic compounds that are insoluble in water. Why they are insoluble? Non-polar. This includes fat, oil, and wax, although we don't tend to eat wax. But these are also responsible for making cell membranes. That's the phospholipids, which you see here. Steroids, which are a type of lipid, make hormones. And of course, energy storage. The triglycerides are most commonly called fats and oils. They're used for energy and to build cell membranes. Your body is going to store any excess fat from your diet in the form of triglycerides. And the worst part is that if you have extra carbohydrates and proteins that your body isn't using for anything, those can actually be converted into fat for storage. So it's not just about like, oh, I'll just cut out all the fat from my diet. It's also like you just want to moderate how much of everything that you eat. You don't want to eat only protein and carbohydrate and just cut out all the fat, because then you're going to end up having extra carbohydrate and protein that's going to turn into fat anyway. Stored fats are beneficial unless they are excessive. A light layer of body fat beneath the skin provides insulation. And fat surrounding your vulnerable organs, like your kidneys and your liver, are protective padding. And of course, under normal circumstances, your fat reserves are a concentrated source of energy. Now, this is a triglyceride. It's called a triglyceride because we have a glycerol molecule and we've got 3 fatty acids attached to it. Again, this should be a review from last year. Fatty acids can be divided into 2 types. We have saturated fatty acids where they contain only single bonds. So they are nice, straight chains. And you can pack these together quite closely. So they are solid at room temperature. So these are your animal fats, like cheese, butter, fat that's in bacon. And I just had bacon for the first time in like probably 6 months over the weekend. And oh, it was delicious. But at the same time, I think I had 4 slices and I felt so physically ill from that because it was too much grease. But if you notice, if you cook bacon, if you let that fat cool down, it solidifies, right? It turns into kind of a cloudy white solid. That's because they are saturated fatty acids. They're solid at room temperature. Right, unsaturated fatty acids, you're going to have at least 1 double bond. The double bond is going to create what's called a kink or a bend in the straight hydrocarbon chain. This is going to prevent the molecules from being packed very closely together. So these are your plant oils, right? If you think of all the kinds of oils we can use, we've got palm, olive, corn, peanut, sunflower. I'm sure you can think of other ones. I think the omega oils are a little bit different because that comes from fish. Still an unsaturated fat, but most of the ones that we use are plant-based, and these are liquid at room temperature. If there's more than one double bond, which you can see here, it's called a polyunsaturated fat. Now, why we care about lipids in our diet. Lipids, as I said, they are essential, but again, too much of anything is bad. If you have too much lipid or too much saturated fat in your diet, that is linked to heart disease and high levels of blood cholesterol. Now, what cholesterol does is it makes your cell membrane more rigid, but it also makes your blood thicker, and you don't want that. You want your blood to be nice and thin. You can also have a buildup of fatty deposits in the wall of your arteries. And of course, that's going to affect your blood pressure, because look at what happens to the diameter of your blood vessel. That's going to put the blood under more pressure as it moves through that narrowed area. And then, God forbid, this would actually burst open and release all that fat. Then you've got basically a fat globule that can cause a blockage somewhere, and that can lead to heart attack and stroke. So this condition is called atherosclerosis. This is a buildup of fatty deposits inside the walls of your blood vessels. And obesity is linked to what's called late onset diabetes. This is diabetes that occurs much later in life, and that can lead to kidney failure, blindness, or even amputation. All right, last thing are minerals, vitamins, and water. These do not provide energy. So the first three, carbohydrate, protein, fat, they all provide energy or building materials. These three are still required, but they have nothing to do with providing energy. Vitamins are coenzymes. So one of the functions of vitamins is to enhance enzyme activity. Minerals are necessary for making certain body structures. They're necessary for normal nerve and muscle function and maintaining osmotic balance, the balance of the amount of water that is present in your, not only in your body tissues, but also in your blood. Water, which is, of course, the transport medium for everything in your body, the biggest function of water is to regulate body temperature. So again, vitamins are coenzymes. They activate enzymes and help them function. Vitamins generally cannot be made by the body. So your diet should include a daily amount of all of the vitamins. You only need a small amount because they can be reused just like enzymes. So if you take a multivitamin, then chances are you're going to be getting more vitamin than you actually need, and your body does not store that, okay? If you, for example, if you take vitamin C tablets, I don't remember how much vitamin C your body needs, but it's like a couple hundred milligrams, I think, per day. If you take 1,000 milligram tablet of vitamin C, and let's say your body needs 200 milligrams, you're going to end up peeing out 800 milligrams of vitamin C. But saying that, depending on what your diet is like, depending on what kinds of food you eat, sometimes it is a good idea to take a multivitamin if you know that you're not eating enough variety of food to get all of those nutrients that you need. The cool thing about vitamins is that they are soluble in both water and fat. That's kind of weird, right? Because we talked about how if you dissolve in water, you're polar, which means you can't dissolve in fat, and vice versa. But you have some vitamins that are water soluble and some vitamins that are fat soluble, and that's why you need all of them. Your fat soluble vitamins are A, D, E, and K. Your water soluble vitamins are in the B and C group. And the reason why I say B and C group is because there are multiple types of B vitamins. You've got like B1, B6, B12, like that. Your body cannot store water soluble vitamins. So again, If you take too much vitamin C, you're just going to end up peeing it out. So you excrete it in your urine. Fat-soluble vitamins, however, which is A, D, E, and K, they are storable because they can dissolve in fat. But storing too much of these vitamins or having too little of these vitamins can lead to physical symptoms or even death. So I'm just going to kind of fly through these because you don't have to remember this, but I just wanted to go through some of the vitamins to explain what they're used for. So vitamin A, here are all your sources. A really easy rule of thumb: vitamin A, eat something orange, right? You've got carrots, you've got pumpkin, even red, there's cantaloupe, there's I think mango, sweet potato, anything that's orange colored gives you vitamin A. It's beneficial for your bones and teeth. It's an antioxidant, which helps get rid of free radicals, which helps prevent aging. Okay, I said free radicals, and healthy eyes. Vitamin B1, like I said, there's multiple B vitamins. So it's also called thiamine. Remember, B and C vitamins are water soluble, so you can't keep them. They're essential for growth, carbohydrate metabolism, functioning nerve, heart, muscles. Deficiency symptoms are loss of appetite and weight, nerve disorders, faulty digestion. So that's B1. Then we have B2, which is called riboflavin. Essential for healthy skin, eyes, mouth, again, carbohydrate metabolism, red blood cell formation. Deficiency, diseases and symptoms, you have retarded growth, dimness of vision, inflammation of the tongue, premature aging, and intolerance to light. I will note that it's very difficult. There's inflammation of the tongue, very difficult to diagnose vitamin deficiencies just based on something like premature aging, because that could be genetic as well. B3 is called niacin. Same benefits. And deficiency, you get pellagra, which you have disturbances, skin eruptions, and smoothness of the tongue, which is kind of weird. And here's examples of places where you get B3. There's pellagra. Oh, gross. B6, liver and fish, protein metabolism, and deficiency, dermatitis, nervous disorders. B12, again, these are like a lot of vitamins. I might have you do a project on this because we haven't done any projects yet, I think, aside from the cardiovascular disease thing. All right, here's vitamin C, also called ascorbic acid. You get it mostly from citrus fruits and tomatoes, also paprika, prickwan. That's a really good source of vitamin C. It's important for the development of teeth and the health of your gums. Obviously, this guy is having gum problems. It ends up with scurvy. Now, anybody who's interested in pirates, they used to keep lots of citrus fruits on board of not just pirate ships, but any ships that were traveling for long periods of time, because a lot of sailors would get scurvy. And that is when you have sore gums, you have hemorrhages around the bones, and you tend to bruise easily, not breathe easily. Anyway, vitamin D. Really cool thing about vitamin D is sitting out in the sun helps your body recreate vitamin D. So getting a little bit of sun is good. Again, growth, bone and teeth formation, a lot of vitamins are good for that. And deficiency, you end up with something called rickets. And because we're building strong bones and teeth, of course, a lack of vitamin D means that you're going to have softer bones and you could end up bow-legged like that. Right, so vitamin D is the only vitamin that you can make in large quantities. Like I said, the synthesis involves sunlight converting cholesterol to vitamin D precursors in your skin. So getting a little bit of sun can help you rebuild vitamin D. If you want to avoid the sun because you don't want to have dark skin, that's fine. Get it from your food. I think E and K are the last ones. Vitamin E, you can see you get it from wheat germs, sunflower seeds, almonds, hazelnuts. And this is good for normal reproduction. Deficiency causes anemia in newborns. And finally, I think this is the last one, vitamin K. You get vitamin K a lot from leafy greens like kale, Swiss chard, parsley. Vitamin K is very important for normal clotting of the blood, and deficiency causes hemorrhages. And something else about vitamin K is that if your dog gets poisoned, a lot of times it will cause say like rat poisons. Like many years ago, we used to live in a condo, and they used to put out these rat traps with like these little rat pellets in them that were rat poison. Now, what the rat poison does is it thins out the blood and basically makes the rat hemorrhage inside, so they bleed internally to death. And one day when we were walking the pug, he grabbed one of these little pellets because apparently they taste good, I don't know. And he ate it, and we had to rush him to the vet, and they gave him like charcoal like medicine to make him throw up, and the charcoal to try to absorb the poison. But they also injected him with vitamin K to help normal blood clotting. So people that get poisoned, they can use vitamin K. And really, really quickly, I know it's 2:20, but I really want to finish this. Minerals, naturally occurring inorganic, that's what makes minerals different. They make certain body structures. They carry out normal nerve and muscle function, which you could say about any of the vitamins, osmotic balance as well. Here's some examples of minerals. They have a tendency to be elements, and a lot of them we can get from salts. So you can see iodine, we would get that from iodized salt. Sodium, potassium, we can also get from salt. So these are just, you can look at that in the book anyway. And lastly, water. Water accounts for over half your body weight. So please don't try to dehydrate yourself in order to lose weight. But it doesn't explain why, if you go on a crash diet, you might lose a bunch of weight in the beginning, but then the weight kind of comes back or it stabilizes because the first thing that you lose is water weight. So obviously, most of the function of water is just to act as a transport substance. And the most important part is that it helps regulate body temperature. Whew. I really got to figure out how to not go off on so many tangents, but I can't help it because I really like this topic. All right. Anyway, so I'm going to think of like a small project for you guys to do when it comes to vitamins and minerals, just so I can like have you guys do a bit of research and writing on your own. And on Friday, I don't know what we're going to do on Friday yet. I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. But anyway, I'll see you guys on Friday. Bye.
Thank you.